Well, hello, Crosswinds. Welcome back to the Crosswinds Church More Than Sunday podcast. This is Chris Coley. I'm the senior pastor here at Crosswinds. And today I have Emily Nelson, who's one of our elders at Crosswinds. She has actually been here at this church from day one. I have her joining us to do another episode where we're talking about a trip that 51 of us leaders from the Bay Area took down to Austin, Texas to look at Community First Village, this wonderful village made up of people who had been chronically homeless and just saw their lives change through a community built for them. So I hope you enjoy this. All right, everybody. Well, I am here with Emily Nelson. Emily, who's one of our elders and who has been a part of Crosswinds Church from day one. Emily, welcome to our podcast.
Thanks, Chris, for having me. It's good to be here.
I feel like we should have had you a long time ago. I mean, you've been here from the very beginning. And I guess our podcast is kind of a new thing within the last 6 weeks or so. But good to have you here today. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Well, I wanted you to come on because you and your husband, Greg, joined us down in Austin, Texas back in February. And we're doing a series of these episodes where we're just kind of talking about our trip and what we experienced down there, because I'm wanting more and more people from Crosswinds to just kind of get a vision for what this thing was. We had Aaron Horner on a few days ago. He filled us in on some of what he saw and Aaron's really unique experience, because he went and lived in the village in one of these tiny homes for 3 or 4 days, built friendships where these people are all still calling him, and he's going to breakfast and things like that.
He connects that way, doesn't he? Instantly.
He really does. He's like nobody I've ever met. I call him a unicorn because there's just very, very few people that can do what Aaron does. But I'd love to get your perspective on what you saw down there. I mean, first of all, when I told you, hey, we're going to take a big group of people, like 51 people from the Bay Area, down to a village made up of former homeless people, what did you picture in your head? Like, you've worked with homeless people before. I mean, what were your thoughts when you first heard that?
I have worked in the Tenderloin in San Francisco, and with a ministry there that has schools, has support of SROs, which is single resident occupancy rooms in hotels. And so I saw kind of in old hotels, I saw what that looked like. And it's interesting because even though they were in a hotel, they were very separate and very secluded. In fact, they had a regular meal delivery program because some of these people never got out of their little hotel room. And so they brought meals to them, and some of them wouldn't even answer the door. So, until they developed a relationship with them. And so, I saw that they worked really hard at relationship and how that really made the difference to get them out, get them coming into community, into church, or, come eat in the, come get your hair cut, come to the health clinic, but when they were isolated, they didn't have access to any of the services, and they, a lot more loneliness and just.
So you went into our Austin trip already having experienced a lot of volunteering and working with the homeless. And when we say that, just to be clear, Emily, you guys moved down to San Francisco, I think for what was meant to be a year while some work was being done on your house. And how long were you?
Almost 2 years. You know how those things go. Construction goes. Yes.
Yeah. And I know you jumped way in and got very involved in that ministry. This wasn't like, hey, one time I went to a soup kitchen and served food.
Yeah, every Monday was my day that I would go down there, and then some extra, other events that they had. And it was hard because I thought, what am I doing here? Am I really doing anything? It's, but they kind of told us the difference between a cure and care. I cannot come up with the cure. I'm not going to solve the homeless crisis, by serving a meal, or taking somebody to the doctor, but I have capacity to care. and I have
Yeah.
ability to care, so I can do that. And sometimes when it seems so overwhelming, like, what does it even matter? It's like, God saying,
Yeah.
you can care, you're not going to cure
Yeah.
this, but you can show care. So,
Yeah. I love that. Well, I think that's great backstory because I don't know about, well, I do know about you now. You had that experience. For me, when I was first invited to go check this thing out in Austin back in September, I had no idea what I was getting into. I was flying down there with a couple of other people. There's probably about 7 of us from the Bay Area. And as I went, I had in my mind an encampment. In fact, I had in my mind what I see
yeah.
on the sidewalks at the Tenderloin,
I bet most
right?
people do.
Um, I think that's when you say to someone, I'm going to like a homeless village, and that's why I'm always real cautious to say that. I say formerly homeless, or I just say like a master plan community or something like that. Um, I had in my mind tents, just garbage everywhere. I just had a very different picture, and that is not what
No.
we saw when we got to that place. And I know one of the things that really stood out to you was that it felt dignified. And one of the values of the place we went, Community First Village, was that every person should have and feel dignity in this. Tell me a little bit more. Tell us all a little bit more about that.
Sure. They Dignity, it seemed like, was one, their primary core value. Give dignity,
Yeah.
because they're human. They're created in God's
Yeah.
image, like we are, like we all are. And
Yeah.
at first, they one of the ways they do that is give them the dignity of work, which they're like, what, you make them work? But
Mm-hmm.
it's like, well,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
course, because um, they're God created us to work, and he gave us
Yeah.
all skills and talents and gifts to be able to do work. Now it might not be in the regular sense of what we see as work, but we all want to have a purpose with what God has given us. And so they actually
Yeah.
build that into the community, where it's helping with custodial jobs, restaurant,
Yeah.
creating art to sell. It's like,
Yes.
what is your purpose? What is your gifts, your skills? What can you do? And we will pay you a dignified wage, so you can feel
Right.
like you are contributing, that you're not just taking. We just think, oh, they're just takers and they just want a handout. And I think they found the
Yeah.
opposite was true, that they want to contribute. And um, and so thus they have just put dignity upon these people, which is amazing. And you saw the pride reflected in the
Yeah.
community. I when I got home, I told my friends, this was the cleanest neighborhood I have seen, homeless or not homeless. Any neighborhood,
Right.
it
Right.
was
Right.
swept, and you didn't see a piece of trash, and the garden was laid out
Yeah.
beautifully, and it had beauty involved
Yeah.
in it, which I love. That they,
Yeah.
of course, we all have that desire for beauty and
Yeah.
orderliness, and just pride in
Mhm.
the community. You saw that everywhere.
I agree. I think there is something you've said there that's is really, really. I don't know that it's something everyone entirely gets when it comes to at least the housing piece for our unhoused friends. The truth is that a job, some form of way to earn, and then to pay
Mm-hmm.
rent actually gives somebody
Mm-hmm.
incredible dignity, right? Like I don't need a handout. I am making it on my own, and I am in the middle of contributing to my own
Mm-hmm.
existence and ability to continue on, and then that is in such a way that someone can actually see the difference they're making in their own community. Now, I'd say when we were there, a good amount of the people are working in that community, but then there's a whole host of others who have jobs outside the
Mm-hmm.
community now, and they'll take the bus or whatever to get to their other jobs, and then come back to their homes now in the Community First Village. Anyway, that work piece and then that rent piece is part of what it looks like there. to have dignity. And when we say rent, just to be clear, their rent down there is $350 or right around that, right? For one of those tiny homes. It's a big deal.
Studies have shown that, those who have been given the house and those who have had to pay a little bit of rent, that the quality and the way they take care of the community is vastly different. And
Yes. Yeah. When we talk about dignity, a couple of other things that come to my mind in this whole thing. One of the wonderful things about this community is 1 in 5 of the people who live in it are what they call missional neighbors. What they mean by that is it's somebody who was not homeless. You have to get into this place. 4 out of 5 have to have qualified as chronically homeless, which I believe is they've been on the
10
street
years, I think it was, at least.
Or maybe homeless 3 times over 2 years or something. It's one of the two or something, right? And so these 1 in 5 are not, right? They're just folks who have never been homeless as far as we know. Some might have, I guess, but who just say, I want to be in the middle of something like this because I think I can make a difference in a community like this and kind of be light in the darkness potentially if there has been darkness in somebody's life in the past. Long story short, what's really cool, the existing neighbors, the 4 out of 5 that I'm talking about, they actually vote on whether or not they'll let you come in as a missional neighbor. How cool is that? I mean, that's talking about dignity. What they really ask is that you would go serve and volunteer there and get to know that community over the course of a couple of years. And then at some point when a spot opens up, they leave it to the residents, the community residents to decide who's going to come in. Again, just speaking to dignity,
they're the ones living there.
You have choice. It's your community,
right? And we would expect that in any homeowners association, wouldn't we? Here, yeah, of
course, yeah. Well, actually, here you don't even have that choice. Who's moving in?
This is true. They get more choice. And another way they show dignity that I was really touched by was dignity in death. And they were saying that if you live under a bridge, you die under a bridge, you die on the street. They have no idea who's going to, is pick up their body and claim it and give it a proper burial. They, that is like a cloud over their heads. And here they get this, this knowing, this security, knowing that somebody's probably going to hold their hand as they're dying. And when they are gone, they're going to give them a proper burial, and their friends are going to surround them, and they even can rest in peace on the property there. I mean that's
they have a place to inter your ashes there. It's pretty great. Yeah, I think what you're speaking to is the need that every single one of us has to be remembered. And to know that somebody cares about us and that we will not be forgotten. And I look at what they've done there with a group of people who had already been forgotten before they got there, right? Like they've experienced what that is while alive. And to move into a place like that says, hey, not only are you here for a little while, like you could live here forever. You could live out the rest of your life here. And then we'll actually even have a place for your ashes if you want us to, once you've passed. It's so significant to someone who's felt like everything's been temporary and forgettable in their life. It's a big deal. And there is a dignity to that. You're right.
From going to be not being seen, from people passing you on the street and just not even looking at you anymore, just to holding your hand and as you enter this. Enter death, with dignity.
One of the other things that I think of in this is the dignity of leadership for so many of the people in that community. The truth is they have a really cool thing they do on Friday nights there in Austin. They have opened up their campus to movies. Like they open up the entire campus to, they have like an amphitheater area where Alamo Drafthouse, there's a big movie theater chain there in Texas. They have built an outdoor movie theater and then kind of like a leveled amphitheater where you can come and sit on the grass or on the stone. And stone, it sounds like rocks. I just mean like steps of concrete as well. that you can just come and sit with your family and your friends and watch a first run movie while eating food off of food trucks that some of the residents might be running, or popcorn off of this or that. And then what they do is, after the movie's over, and sometimes before the movie, you can sign up to go on a tour of the village. And who's leading the tour?
The
It's
residents.
neighbors,
Yeah.
it's residents. Yeah. And that's somebody's job. It's to give tours on those nights. Similarly, groups will go out and volunteer at this place. And who's leading the groups of volunteers? It's not staff who are people who are like pastors or something like that. This is residents who've shown leadership gifting, and who've said, "Hey, that's going to be like your foreman for the day." I think there's dignity in that
and
too.
how, in tandem with that, how does that transform how the greater community, the city, the outside neighbors look at the homeless, and what opinion do they have of them? How does this transform the stereotypes that they may have had, because they are getting to
Right.
get to know some of their homeless neighbors, and they're just sitting side by
Right.
side with them. They're interacting with them, and they're given a place where they
Yeah.
can do that, and see the dignity and see the worth of the individual.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you, Emily, for coming on. This is helpful. I think this really helps paint a little bit of a picture of what we saw down there. And I'm excited to keep talking about it, because we at Crosswinds, we're trying to figure out what it looks like for our church. And so many, we had 51 people from the Bay Area go down there. We are actively pursuing, what does it look like to not just do some of the quick touches with homelessness here, but what can we do to help solve a larger problem? What can we do on a much larger scale that can really get somebody out of just hey, we got you a hotel for a night, to we got you a home for a lifetime. And I think I'm appreciative of all of you who went, because it's helping us think that through. And I'm appreciative of you just sharing it with the people who are listening, because it helps them get a little bit of a picture of what we saw.
Well, I'm excited to keep learning.
Yeah, all of us are. All right.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Emily. Appreciate it.
Okay,
Take care. Bye.